for today. The same could be said for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. How about this new era for Notre Dame? They prize their independence and national schedule. You know what it takes to put them in a conference? A global pandemic. First Notre Dame game since they started 133 years ago, unlike any other. Gene Wojciechowski, some insight.
Dear Notre Dame, on behalf of college football, we wanted to say thank you. Yes, you've won 11 national championships, had 7 Heisman winners, and on the best win percentage in college football history. You are the program we love, or loathe. There's never been an in-between. But this year is different because the world and college football is different. After 131 seasons of football independence, you joined a conference. And by doing so, you might have been the difference in the ACC playing football this fall. Without you in the ACC, who knows what would have happened? In other words, a win-win-win. For Notre Dame, the ACC, and college football. So thank you for making the leap of faith. Here's hoping it was a jump worth taking. Signed, the other 76.
Those that are playing, grateful to the Fighting Irish. This is how the schedule changed. We were supposed to see them in Ireland against Navy, but when teams started shutting down and Notre Dame went into the ACC for this year, the schedule switched. Now, their strength of schedule, according to FPI, before was 13th in the country, but with this full ACC slate now in the South Florida game, it's 33rd. So in theory, at least, in the early going, it looks as if the schedule got just a little bit easier. John Swafford, the commissioner of the ACC, has Notre Dame in for all other sports, and for this year, he's got them in for football, too.
I think it's historic for Notre Dame in the sense that they have never played a football season as a member of a conference. You're bringing in a tremendous brand in college football, a program and an institution that is very much in sync with what the Atlantic Coast Conference stands for in terms of the academic athletic balance. It's a win-win, and it's a win-win in the sense that it fills a need for Notre Dame. It certainly fits well with what the Atlantic Coast Conference was attempting to do. And the whole relationship between Notre Dame and the ACC has been a win-win from the very beginning.
Well, there have been some bumps because when they put the ACC logo on the turf, initially, they put it in the wrong spot. So they had to move it inside the hash marks. That's not really a big deal. It's like a henna tattoo anyway. It's going to go away. Gene Wojciechowski with Brian Kelly.
Brian, this is your 11th season at Notre Dame, so you have seen a lot of stuff, but you've never seen an ACC logo on your stadium field. What is it like to be a member of a conference now?
You know, we're really appreciative of the opportunity. You know, as you know, our schedule kind of started to fold, if you will, when the Pac-12 and the Big Ten decided not to play. So our relationship, certainly with all the other sports in the ACC, allowed us to build that partnership back up with football, and being in it, we're obviously very pleased that we have this opportunity and to play for a championship.
During this pandemic, you and your program have handled the lead up to this season as well as anybody in the country. If they asked you, what would you tell the conferences that are still grappling with the idea of if and when to play football this year?
You know, I'm not a medical expert, and they have medical experts that they can, rely on. I can tell you what we've done is a lot of this is that it is a real challenge. This is really optional. The commitment they have to make to human behavior during this pandemic requires a lot of sacrificing. If you do all those things and have the kind of medical supervision, you can play football. We have shown that we can do that here at Notre Dame.
And perhaps the Big Ten will follow suit. We'll have the latest on that coming up in a bit as Gene Wojciechowski joins us now from South Bend. So, Gene, what kind of changes in game day related to COVID have been evident for both Notre Dame and Duke as they get set for this ACC opener?
Well, Reese, I have been coming to Notre Dame covering college football here on their opening days for more than 30 years. And normally you would see Touchdown Jesus with his hands over his ears. It's so loud on a season opener. Home opener, especially. Not today. Everything has changed because of COVID. As far as the teams themselves, Notre Dame has tested 3 times this week. They stayed in a hotel like they usually do on a Friday night before a game, but they went 2 to a room, sort of like player pods. Duke has actually taken it to another level. They tested each day this week, and they had 1 player per room in their hotel last night. So definitely taking things very seriously. As far as the effects on a game day, Reese, well, like I said, normally it's like it's busy as an ant colony here. Not today. No pep rally last night. No team walk. No tailgating. No barbecues out here in front of the dorms. Everything has changed. They're about 20% capacity. Normally a full house here would be 77,000 plus. Not today, 20%. Most of that will be students, members of the players' families, the band, the cheer squad, and essential personnel only, Reese.
Gene, it's certainly going to be a different environment. Gene Wojciechowski reporting from South Bend as the Irish get set for their first ever conference game as they open against Duke. It's in Notre Dame against ACC opponents since 2017. They've done a really good job. And Clemson and Miami have gotten them, but otherwise the Irish have had an exceptional win percentage. But they've won the ACC tournament in basketball back in 2015. That's the crowning glory. But if they could come in a one-and-done situation and win the ACC
grab my title
and then take it home, never to be taken away from them again.
Yeah, this is a win-win for Notre Dame. I guess ACC may benefit somehow because Clemson has been just walking through it for 5 years very easily, no competition. So now they have a team that can probably contend with Clemson in the conference. But you look at Notre Dame's situation now, because of their new schedule, they play Clemson, which they host Clemson, and then the second toughest game, in my opinion, is going to be against North Carolina when they go to North Carolina. So those are 2 toughest games on their schedule. I think they're in a really good situation to make a run. That Clemson game is going to tell us a lot about that program, David.
They're in a great situation. They're in a better situation now because I think the mulligan factor is going to be real for them. I mean, we always talk about them. They need to be undefeated because they're not going to play on Conference Championship Saturday, right? We're always looking around, and they have to play that day, or otherwise we're going to give it to somebody else. If they lose a game, they still got an opportunity. They still got great. They lose to Clemson, they're still very much in it. They could play Clemson again in a rematch. They can still beat North Carolina. I think they're going to be afforded a mulligan. I think the schedule sets up better for them being in the ACC.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think the history says they've never been in a conference. But if you're a player, this is just an added bonus. You went there, and Notre Dame's an independent. Now all of a sudden you're playing, and you got a chance to win a league championship and maybe put yourself into a playoff on the back end. And what kind of team are we looking at this year with Notre Dame? Well, Ian Book, we always want to talk about quarterbacks. The defense that we watched a year ago with Clark Lee as a defensive coordinator, they're athletic. This is no longer Notre Dame just holding on for dear life, hoping that you're going to move the ball and then maybe kick field goals in the red zone. These guys are flying around and playing with a chip on their shoulder. And, Coach, I don't expect that to change at all. So, a lot of talk about Ian Book and the offense, but that Irish defense, again, this year is going to be dominant.
Last year, the Irish won at least 10 games for the 3rd straight time in school history. With Ian Book leading the way, they won the last 6 games in a row last year. Notre Dame will be trouble for everybody this year. Mark it down. Notre Dame's going to be tough this year.
LC's got him in a playoff, doesn't he?
I think he does.
He's got him in a playoff.
Yes,
They
sir.
better make sure that they don't take that mulligan on opening day with Chase Bryce, the Clemson transfer quarterback, because Clemson blew out so many people. Bryce has played a good bit, and Duke was really rough. They were in the bottom 7 or 8 in the country in terms of pass rate efficiency and getting the ball downfield. But Chase Bryce can do that. Talking to Cutcliffe this week, as he's grasped the offense, he just continued to be able to help Duke make big plays. So you look at what Chase Bryce could bring in there with a little confidence for the Duke offense, and David Cutcliffe. LC, what are you looking for today with your squad that's headed to the playoff?
Well, you take a look at Notre Dame's offense. They're loaded this year. Ian Book, the quarterback, can run and pass to get victory. He had 38 touchdown passes, or 38 touchdowns last year. They returned the entire offensive line. They're going to load it. I tell you, Notre Dame's a sleeper this year. They're going to be like a factor, I guess. I don't know, maybe.
Hey, but do me a favor. I'm going to ask you a question that everybody watching wants to know. Can you look over your right shoulder? Can you look back there behind you there? What? You got somebody watering the plants for you there? Is it the deacon back there?
I hired a demon deacon to water my plants. He's doing a good job.
That's beautiful.
We got everything
you know what?
we got everything.
You do. You got mascots. You got everything set up down there. You're going to sit down and hang in that pool when we get done. But you're right, Coach, about this offense, and there's good reason. Des and David just put out a number of reasons. You go from a schedule that was 13th toughest in the country to move it into the ACC. Now it's 33rd, and you got really two games that stand out with Clemson and then maybe North Carolina and Chapel Hill, and then maybe an ACC championship. I can see why Coach is ecstatic, but Chase Bryce has been at Clemson, hasn't played a lot. So it's a little bit misleading to go against this defense. He'll make some plays, but I like Notre Dame to win very convincingly today.
I tell you what, we've been talking a lot about Ian Book. David started the show talking about Ian Book. You've mentioned him, Coach mentioned him. Let me tell you what I like about Notre Dame's quarterback. Let me show you a tape. Give you 3 plays. Look for this when they play Duke today. First and foremost, he's a guy who's not going to put the offense in a bad position. The defense is going with a split look right now. Man at the top, zone at the bottom. Ian Book reads the defense, and then he goes to the zone buster. What's the zone buster? Tight end seam. If you don't believe me, ask Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Works every time. He reads the defense, finds the open receiver, and throws a nice catchable ball. Now, they have a lot of running backs, so a stable of workhorses. Play action is going to be a big part of their game. What is he going to do? Take what the defense gives him after play action, throw it to the tight end, over the linebackers. Again, take what the defense gives you. Now, watch how he manipulates the safety, the deep safety with his eyes. He's going to hold him right there on that hash mark because Ian Book on this throw wants to go to his left down the sideline. He delivers a perfect ball, boom, for a touchdown. These are the things that Ian Book brings to the offense. Like I said, they have a lot of running backs, and Coach Kelly, he's just been really raving about how Ian Book has grown and developed as a leader. He said that he's single-minded in his approach now and that he knows what he wants. He says at this point, Ian Book is talking championship or bust. Those are big words, guys.
ACC championship or?
He just said championship. He'll take what he can get. If he can get the ACC championship, that means he beats Clemson. You kidding me?
He knows the answer to that. Notre Dame is going with one championship that really matters.
It's still fun to say.
If he wins the ACC championship,
that is the championship.
He'll get a shot at being able to win for you. You know, Ian Book better watch out for Chris Rumph, elite pass rusher. Purdue Pro Football Focus said he had a better pass rush win rate last year than anybody. See if he can win the fight, and there's going to be some fights tonight. UFC Fight Night from Vegas, Michelle Waters and Angela Hill. The strawweight main event prelims start at 5 Eastern.